I was 27 years old when I first saw my own name carved into stone. It was subtle, almost hidden, right beneath the mailbox. Ethan Cole. Same spelling, same middle initial, same last name I'd carried my entire life. The letters were clean, professional, permanent, not scratched, not painted, etched. And yet, I had never stepped inside that house. The house stood at the edge of our town, where the road curved and the trees grew thicker, like they were guarding something. White siding, black shutters, a wraparound porch that always looked empty, even when the lights were on. Growing up, I'd pass it on the bus every morning and ask my mother the same question. Why does that house have my name on it? She'd never answer directly. That belonged to your grandfather, she'd say. Or, some things aren't for children to understand. Once, when I was 10, she snapped, "Stop asking questions that don't concern you." My father was worse. He didn't dodge the question. He shut it down. "You don't go near that place," he told me once, gripping the steering wheel so hard his knuckles went white. "You don't talk about it, and you don't ask about it again." So I didn't. Not out loud. But the house stayed with me. It lived in the back of my mind, like a locked door I wasn't allowed to touch. While other kids played in backyards, I imagined the rooms inside that house. I imagined pictures on the walls, a bedroom that might have been mine, a life that somehow belonged to me but was being lived by someone else. Then I left town at 18. College, work, life. I didn't come back for almost a decade. When I did, it was for my mother's funeral. Grief has a way of peeling away fear. After the burial, after the casseroles and the hollow condolences, I found myself driving without thinking. My hands turned the wheel on their own. I stopped in front of the house. Up close, it felt different, heavier, like it knew me. The name beneath the mailbox was unmistakable, recently cleaned, maintained. Someone still cared enough to keep it visible. I walked up the driveway. That's when the door opened. My older sister Laura stepped onto the porch like she'd been expecting me. She looked comfortable, like she belonged there, like she'd been living a life I wasn't invited into. "What are you doing here?" she asked, her voice calm but sharp. I stared past her, into the house. Hardwood floors, a staircase, family photos lining the wall. Why is my name on this house? She blocked the doorway. "You're not allowed inside," she said. The words hit harder than I expected. "Not allowed?" I repeated. "Laura, Mom is dead, Dad's gone. Who exactly is stopping me?" Her jaw tightened. Some promises don't die with people, and if you knew the truth, you'd wish you'd never come back. I stepped closer. "That's my name on the deed," I said, "so start talking." She looked me dead in the eye and whispered, "Ethan, this house was never meant to be yours." And then she shut the door in my face. I stood there, staring at a house legally tied to my name, locked out by my own sister, not knowing the reason I was forbidden to enter would shatter everything I believed about my family. My name was carved into the gate before I ever understood what it meant to belong. I remember tracing the cold metal letters with my fingers when I was 9. Arav Malik. My name, clear, permanent, impossible to miss. But the gate never opened for me. The house stood at the end of our narrow street like a quiet accusation. 3 stories tall, cream-colored walls, balconies wrapped in iron rails, and windows that always reflected the sky instead of showing what was inside. Neighbors whispered about it as the Malik house. My relatives pointed at it during weddings and said, "That's yours, Arav, built in your name." Yet every time I stepped toward the gate, my mother's voice would cut through the air like a warning bell. "Not there. That house is not for you. Not for me." I grew up in a cramped, rented portion 2 streets away, peeling paint, 1 bathroom for 5 people, water shortages, power cuts, while my house stood silent, polished and locked, guarded by a gate that carried my name but rejected my presence. Whenever I asked why, the answers changed. "You'll understand when you're older. It's for investment. Don't be ungrateful. You have a roof, don't you?" My father never answered at all. He would lower his eyes, fold the newspaper, and leave the room. That silence hurt more than the words. At school, teachers praised my discipline. At home, I was treated like a guest who had overstayed his welcome. My younger brother, Ryan, slept in a room with a door that locked. I slept on a folding bed in the living area. My sister had a cupboard for her clothes. I kept mine in a suitcase under the bed, ready, I suppose, for the day they'd finally tell me to leave. The house with my name on it became a legend I wasn't allowed to touch. On my 18th birthday, I gathered the courage to ask again. "Ami," I said quietly, "if the house is in my name, why can't I even see it from inside?" She froze, not shocked, not angry, afraid. "Who told you it's in your name?" she asked. "You did. Everyone does." She avoided my eyes. People talk too much. That night, I overheard my parents arguing behind closed doors, my name slicing through their whispers like a knife. "He's asking questions," she hissed. "He deserves answers," my father replied, his voice cracked. "No, not yet, not ever." That was the moment I realized something terrible. The house wasn't locked to protect me. It was locked to keep me out. Years passed. I worked, studied, saved. I watched my siblings move freely through life, while I was constantly reminded to be patient, obedient, grateful. Every family decision seemed to happen around me, never with me. Then one afternoon, while sorting old documents at my aunt's place, I found something that made my hands tremble. A property file, stamped, registered, owner, Arav Malik, dated 23 years ago, the same year I was born, and suddenly the house with my name on it didn't feel like a gift anymore. It felt like evidence. Evidence of a truth my family had buried behind a locked gate and a lie I had lived my entire life. And I hadn't even reached the worst part yet. I thought discovering the house was in my name was shocking, until I read the next page of the file and realized why my family never wanted me inside. I turned 18 the same summer the locks were changed. Not on my bedroom door, that had never had a lock, but on the house. I remember coming home from my part-time job at the grocery store, my shoes still smelling like spilled milk and cardboard. The sun was setting behind the house, with my name carved into its front beam, the letters catching the light like a quiet accusation. Elliot Morrow. That was me, or at least that was supposed to be me. I reached for the handle out of habit. It didn't turn. I tried again, harder this time, my fingers tightening, my heart starting to beat faster. The door didn't budge. I stepped back, confused, staring at the lock as if it had personally betrayed me. That was when my mother opened the door from the inside. She didn't look surprised to see me struggling. She looked prepared. "You need to knock now," she said calmly. I laughed because the alternative was screaming. "Knock? Mom, it's me." She stepped outside and closed the door behind her, the lock clicking loudly between us. "We've set some boundaries," she said. That word, boundaries, it felt too soft for what she was doing. Boundaries for what? I live here. She shook her head. "You stay here. That's different." Behind her, I could see the hallway, the clean floors, the family photos that didn't include me past age 12, and further back, past the corner where the stairs turned, I saw it. The door to the West Wing, the door I had never been allowed to open. "What changed?" I asked quietly. She hesitated just for a second. "Your father thinks it's time you learned respect." Respect, another soft word hiding something sharp. That night, at dinner, my father laid out the rules like a contract I had never agreed to. I wasn't allowed inside the house before 7 p.m. I couldn't enter the West Wing, ever. I wasn't allowed to bring friends over. I couldn't ask questions about the house, its history, or why my name was carved into it. "If you don't like it," he said, cutting his steak with surgical precision, "you're free to leave." I stared at him, waiting for the punchline. "Leave where?" I asked. He didn't answer. My younger sister, Mara, kept her eyes on her plate. She was 16 then, old enough to understand, young enough to survive by staying silent. Later that night, I lay awake in the narrow room off the garage, the one they started calling my space once I was locked out of the rest of the house. The walls were thin, too thin. I heard footsteps above me, slow, heavy, more than 2 people. Then a sound I had never heard before, a door creaking open, from the West Wing. My heart started pounding. They told me no one went in there, but someone was walking. I could hear it clearly now. Footsteps moving across old wood, voices low and urgent, my father's voice, my mother's, and another one, a man I didn't recognize. I pressed my ear to the wall, barely breathing. "He doesn't suspect anything," my mother whispered. "Good, because once he does, this house stops being quiet." I backed away from the wall, my hands shaking. For the first time, it hit me, not as a fear, but as a certainty. That house didn't just belong to me, it was built around me, and whatever they were hiding behind that West Wing door, it had my name on it for a reason. The next morning, I found a document hidden in my father's desk, one that proved the house wasn't just connected to me, it was waiting for me. By the time I turned 25, the house had become a ghost I carried everywhere. It sat on the edge of our town, painted the same pale blue it had always been. Fresh flowers rotated on the porch every season. Lights turned on at dusk. Curtains moved. Life existed inside it, just not mine. I knew because I drove past it at least twice a week.
Sometimes I parked across the street and watched. I told myself I was checking if the foundation was holding, if the roof leaked, if the house with my name engraved on the property deed was still standing. But really, I was watching my family live a life that somehow excluded me. My father's truck sat in the driveway most nights. My mother's wind chimes, ones I bought her in high school, still sang on the porch. And then there was Lena, my younger sister. She had moved in right after college. The same sister who once shared a room with me. The same sister who never asked why I wasn't allowed inside. One afternoon, I finally worked up the nerve. I parked, walked to the porch, and stood in front of the door with the brass knocker shaped like a lion's head, the door I had paid for, the door I had never crossed. I knocked. Footsteps approached. The door opened just enough for my mother's face to appear. Her smile froze. "Oh," she said, "you didn't call." "I was in the neighborhood. I thought maybe I could come in." Silence stretched between us, thick and awkward. She stepped outside instead, closing the door behind her. The message was clear. "We're in the middle of something," she said quickly. "Your father's not feeling well, and Lena has guests." "I'm family," I said, my voice tighter than I meant it to be. "This is my house, too." Her eyes flicked away. "It's complicated." That word again. I looked past her shoulder. Through the side window, I saw a dining table I'd picked out, a bookshelf I assembled, family photos on the wall, none of them with me in the frame. "When?" I asked quietly. "When does it stop being complicated?" She reached into her pocket and pulled out a key ring. My key. The one she'd taken years ago for safekeeping. She placed it in my palm like it burned her skin. "Not now. Please don't do this today." I wanted to scream. I wanted to push past her. I wanted to use the key and finally turn the lock. But I didn't. I walked back to my car with the key digging into my hand, feeling heavier than the house itself. That night, I held the key under my lamp, staring at the worn grooves. This small piece of metal had kept me out of my own life. And for the first time, I asked myself a terrifying question. What if the house wasn't meant to be mine at all? Only the debt, the responsibility, and the silence. I didn't know it yet, but the next time I tried that key, everything would break open. I thought having the key meant I finally had access. I was wrong. What waited behind that door wasn't just betrayal, it was proof.
I thought I was prepared when I walked back into that house after the will reading. I really did. I told myself walls were just walls, that names carved into wood didn't mean love, that betrayal loses its power once you see it clearly. I was wrong. The house felt different now, quieter, like it was holding its breath. My Aunt Marjorie let me in with a stiff nod. She'd been appointed temporary executor, which meant she now stood where my father once did, between me and the truth. "You have 1 hour," she said. "Only common areas." I didn't argue. I knew arguing never worked in this family. Silence always punished them more. I walked through the living room where I'd never been allowed to sit, past the dining table that still had 8 chairs for a family of 6, never counting me. Every step echoed like an accusation. Then I saw the hallway. At the very end was a door I had never noticed before. White, plain, no lock visible from the outside. But what stopped me wasn't the door. It was the brass nameplate screwed into the wood. My full name, perfectly spelled, no scratches, no dust, like someone polished it regularly. My chest tightened so hard I had to grip the wall. "That room is off limits," Marjorie said sharply behind me. I turned slowly. "Why?" Her mouth opened, then closed. "It's complicated." That was the word my family used when the truth was ugly. I reached for the handle. She grabbed my wrist. "Your father was very clear. That room was not for you." I laughed, one short, broken sound. "My name is on it." She let go like I'd burned her. 5 minutes, she said. "That's all I'll allow." The door opened easily. Inside, the room was frozen in time. A neatly made bed, a desk by the window, shelves filled with books I loved as a kid, science magazines, old sketch pads, a model airplane still half built. This wasn't a guest room. This was my room, the room I was never allowed to have. On the desk sat a framed photo of me at 10 years old, smiling awkwardly at the camera. I had never seen that photo before. Under it was a stack of letters, all addressed to me, all unopened. I picked one up, my father's handwriting, dated 20 years ago. My hands shook as I opened it. "I don't know how to say this to your face. Every time I try, I lose my nerve. Your mother thinks distance will make things easier. I think it's a lie. But I'm a coward, and cowards build rooms instead of bridges." I sank onto the bed. Another letter. "Your sister asked why this room exists. I told her it was storage. She believed me. Everyone always believes me." Another. "If you ever read this, it means I failed completely, or I'm gone. Either way, I'm sorry. I chose peace in the house over truth, and you paid the price." Tears blurred the words. This room wasn't love. It was guilt carefully organized, a way for my father to pretend I existed without letting me belong. I didn't hear Marjorie come in, but her voice cut through the silence. "He built that room after you were sent away," she said quietly. "He couldn't undo the decision. Your mother wouldn't allow it. So this was his compromise." "A shrine?" I asked bitterly. "A confession," she replied, "one he never had the courage to speak." I stood, wiping my face. "Then why put my name on the deed? Why now?" Marjorie looked at me with something close to fear. "Because," she said, "this room isn't the only thing your father hid from the rest of us." My stomach dropped. "What do you mean?" She hesitated, then said the words that changed everything. "There's another document, older than the will, and if it's enforced, this house doesn't just belong to you in name, it belongs to you completely." And that's when I realized this story wasn't about a locked room anymore. It was about a secret so dangerous my family built an entire lie to bury it. The envelope felt heavier than it should have, like it carried more than just paper inside. My name was written on it in my father's handwriting, sharp, precise, unmistakable. I hadn't seen that handwriting in years, not since the last time he told me I was confused for wanting answers about the house. I stood in the hallway of the same house I'd been barred from my entire life. The floors creaked beneath my feet, as if the place was finally acknowledging my existence. Every step felt like trespassing, even though the deed in my pocket said otherwise. My aunt cleared her throat. "You should read it out loud." I looked at her. "Why?" "Because everyone here needs to hear it. Everyone.
My mother, my sister, my uncle, all standing in a loose circle, avoiding my eyes like I was a ghost that had learned how to speak. I opened the envelope with shaking hands. To my child, if you are reading this, then I am gone, and the truth can no longer hurt anyone except those who tried to bury it. My chest tightened. The house on Alder Row was placed in your name the day you were born, not as a gift, but as a promise. My mother sucked in a sharp breath. You were never meant to live here. You were meant to own it, to be protected by it, but fear made cowards of us all. I swallowed hard and continued. Your grandfather built this house with money he stole from your grandmother's inheritance. When she died, the guilt ate him alive. He demanded the house be placed in your name to balance the scales, a child untouched by his sins. My sister stared at the floor. But when your mother realized what that meant, that one day you would own everything, she panicked. I stopped reading for a moment. My hands were numb. My mother whispered, "Please don't." I kept going. They agreed to raise you close, but not equal, loved, but never trusted. They feared you would take the house before they were ready to let go of control. Tears blurred the words. So they told you it wasn't yours. They told you it was unsafe. They told you lies so often they forgot they were lies. I felt something crack open inside me. I am sorry I did not stop them. I am sorry I chose peace over courage. Silence filled the room, thick and suffocating. My sister finally looked up. That's not fair. We were kids too. I nodded. I know. Then I read the final paragraph. The house is yours, always was, but more than that, you deserved the truth. I folded the letter carefully. My mother was crying now, but not the kind of crying that asks for forgiveness. It was the crying of someone exposed. You were supposed to understand. We needed time. 30 years? I asked quietly. No one answered. That night, I slept in the house for the first time, in the room that was supposed to be mine. But sleep didn't bring peace, because owning the house didn't answer the one question that haunted me. If they could lie to me for this long, what else had they hidden? And that question would lead me to a truth even darker than the house itself. The next morning, I found something hidden behind a wall that proved the betrayal went far deeper than ownership.
The day I finally stepped into the house with my name on it, the sky was gray and low, like it had been waiting years to press down on me. I didn't come with anger this time. I came with paperwork. The lawyer stood beside me on the porch, holding a folder thick with truths my family had buried. Probate records, trust documents, a will written the year my grandfather died, the year I was 10, the year he squeezed my hand and whispered, "This house is yours, even if they lie." My parents were inside when we arrived. I could hear my mother's voice through the door, sharp and panicked. My father opened it slowly, like he already knew what was coming. He didn't ask why I was there. He just looked tired. The lawyer spoke calmly, clearly, no emotion, just facts. The house had been placed in a trust under my name. My parents were listed as temporary custodians until I turned 18. But instead of transferring ownership, they'd altered records, stalled filings, and used the house as collateral for loans they never told me about. They didn't just lock me out, they stole years of my life. My mother started crying immediately, collapsing onto the couch like she was the victim. My father tried to speak, but every sentence sounded like an excuse he'd practiced too many times. "We were protecting you," he said. "From what? From knowing the truth?" No one answered. I walked through the house slowly, room by room. My room, the one they never let me see, was full of boxes, old photos, my childhood drawings, even a height chart on the doorframe with my name written beside the marks. They'd kept everything, just not me. In the back bedroom, I found my grandfather's desk. Inside the bottom drawer was a letter, yellowed with time, addressed to me in his careful handwriting. "If you're reading this, they failed you. I'm sorry I couldn't stop it. But remember, blood can betray, and silence can be louder than love. Don't beg for a place where you were always meant to stand." I cried then, not loud, not messy, just quietly, like someone finally letting go. The lawyer finished his work, ownership transferred, accounts frozen, a court date set for the fraud. As I walked back to the door, my mother grabbed my arm. "You're tearing this family apart," she whispered. I looked at her hand on my sleeve and gently removed it. "No," I said, "you did that. I just stopped pretending." I didn't kick them out that day. I gave them 30 days, not out of kindness, but because I wanted to leave with dignity, something they never offered me. On my last night there alone, I slept on the living room floor. The house creaked like it was learning my weight, my breath, my presence. For the first time, the name on the deed and the name in the house matched. I sold the place 6 months later, not because I hated it, but because I no longer needed proof of what was taken from me. I built a smaller home somewhere quiet, somewhere no one knew my last name, somewhere keys didn't come with conditions. My parents tried calling once. I let it ring. Some houses are inherited, others are survived, and some truths, once unlocked, can never be closed again. They thought the house would be my cage. They never imagined it would become my escape.